but because its after effects make gentle. And not only in the religious song, but also in the secular song of the most ancient times, the prerequisite is that the rhythm should exercise a magical influence. For example, in drawing water or in rowing, the song is for the enchanting of the spirits supposed to be active thereby. It makes them obliging, involuntary, and the instruments of man. And as often as a person acts he has occasion to sing, every action is dependent on the assistance of spirits. Magic song and incantation appear to be the original form of poetry. When verse also came to be used in oracles, the Greeks said that the hexameter was invented at Delphi. The rhythm was here also intended to exercise a compulsory influence. To make a prophecy, that means originally, according to what seems to me the probable derivation of the Greek word, to determine something. People thought that they could determine the future by winning Apollo over to their side. He who, according to the most ancient idea, is far more than a foreseeing deity, according as the formula is pronounced with literal and rhythmical correctness, it determines the future. The formula, however, is the invention of Apollo, who as the god of rhythm can also determine the goddesses of fate. Looked at and investigated as a whole, was there ever anything more serviceable to the ancient superstitious species of human beings than rhythm? People could do everything with it. They could make labour go on magically, they could compel a god to appear, to be near at hand, and listen to them. They could arrange the future for themselves according to their will. They could unburden their own souls of any kind of excess, of anxiety, of mania, of sympathy, of revenge, and not only their souls, but the souls of the most evil spirits. Without verse a person was nothing. By means of verse a person became almost a god. Such a fundamental feeling no longer allows itself to be fully eradicated. Even now, after millenniums of long labour in combating such superstition, the very wisest of us occasionally becomes a fool of rhythm. Be it only that one perceives a thought to be truer when it has metrical form, and approaches with a divine hopping. Is it not a very funny thing that the most serious philosophers, however anxious they are in other respects for strict certainty, still appeal to poetical sayings in order to give their thoughts force and credibility? And yet it is more dangerous to a truth when a poet assents to it than when he contradicts it. For, as Homer says, "The singers speak much falsehood." 85. The good and the beautiful. Artists glorify continually, they do nothing else. And indeed they glorify all those conditions and things that have a reputation, so that man may feel himself good or great, or intoxicated, or merry, or pleased and wise by it. Those select things and conditions whose value for human happiness is regarded as secure and determined are the objects of artists. They are ever lying in wait to discover such things, to transfer them into the domain of art. I mean to say that they are not themselves the valuers of happiness and of the happy ones, but are always pressing close to those valuers with the greatest curiosity and longing, in order immediately to use their valuations advantageously. As besides their impatience, they have also the big lungs of heralds and the feet of runners, they are likewise always among the first to glorify new excellency, and often seem to be those who first of all called it good, and valued it as good. This, however, as we have said, is an error. They are only faster and louder than the actual valuers. And who then are these? They are the rich and the leisurely. 86. The Theatre. This day has given me once more strong and elevated sentiments, and if I could have music and art in the evening, I know well what music and art I should not like to have, namely, none of that which would fain intoxicate its hearers and excite them to a crisis of strong and high feeling. Those men with commonplace souls, who in the evening are not like victors on triumphal cars, but like tired mules to whom life has rather too often applied the whip. What would those men at all know of "higher moods," unless there were expedients for causing ecstasy and idealistic strokes of the whip? And thus they have their inspirers as they have their wines. But what is their drink and their drunkenness to me? Does the inspired one need wine? He rather looks with a kind of disgust at the agency and the agent which are here intended to produce an effect without sufficient reason, an imitation of the higher tide of the soul. What? One gives the mole wings and proud fancies before going to sleep, before he creeps into his hole? One sends him into the theatre and puts great magnifying glasses to his blind and tired eyes? Men whose life is not "action" but business, sit in front of the stage and look at strange beings to whom life is nothing more than business? This is proper, you say. This is entertaining. This is what culture wants. Well then, culture is too often lacking in me, for this sight is too often disgusting to me. He who has enough of tragedy and comedy in himself surely prefers to remain away from the theatre, or, as an exception, the whole procedure, theatre and public and poet included, becomes for him a truly tragic and comic play, so that the performed piece counts for little in comparison. He who is something like Faust and Manfred, what does it matter to him about the Fausts and Manfreds of the theatre? While it certainly gives him something to think about that such figures are brought into the theatre at all, the strongest thoughts and passions before those who are not capable of thought and passion, but of intoxication only, and those as a means to this end. And theatre and music, the hashish smoking and batel chewing of Europeans. Oh, who will narrate to us the whole history of narcotics? It is almost the history of "culture," the so-called higher culture. End of Book 2nd, Part 1.